So it's Friday. What we know is that Jesus has been arrested. We know that the religious leaders have now brought Jesus to Pilate, and they want Pilate to allow them to crucify Jesus. But Pilate finds no grounds to put Jesus to death. Instead of standing his ground and doing what's right, Pilate gives in because the religious leaders had gotten the crowd to start chanting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And so Pilate hands Jesus over to be put to death. The guards take Jesus and they beat him brutally. They put a crown of thorns on his head. They spit on him and mock him. And then they put the cross on Jesus' back to carry to Golgotha, where they will crucify him. Jesus is so weak from the beating that on the way he actually collapses. And so the guards grab Simon from Cyrene, and they put the cross on his back and have him carry it the rest of the way. When they get to Golgotha, they lay Jesus on the cross, and they nail his hands and his feet to the cross. And as they raise him up, they put a sign above him that says, "This is the King of the Jews." As people walked by, they mocked Jesus. They said things like, "You save other people, but you can't even save yourself." The Pharisees and the religious leaders mocked him as they walked by. Luke 23 tells us that there were two criminals that were crucified with Jesus, one on his right and one on his left. And in verse 39, it says, one of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." The disciples had lost hope. Many of them were actually hiding at this point. And yet somehow this criminal knew that there was more to Jesus' kingdom than here on earth. They were facing death, and he knew that Jesus was about to die. And yet he asked Jesus, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." He recognized the eternal peace to Jesus' kingdom. And then we go on to Matthew 27, verses 45 through 46. It says, "From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. After the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, 'Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,' which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" You see, when our sin was placed on Jesus while he was on the cross, it created a separation from God because God cannot be in the presence of sin. And that separation from God was so incredibly painful for Jesus. And then we go on to verse 50 where it says, "And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with them who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, 'Surely he was the Son of God.'" You see, the curtain in the temple separated the holy place from the Holy of Holies. And the Holy of Holies is where God's presence dwelt. And nobody could go into that presence because of our sin, except for the high priest, and then only once a year. But the curtain was torn when Jesus died because he paid the price for our sin. And because he paid the price for our sin, if we believe that Jesus is the Messiah, then we can enter into the presence of God righteous and holy only because of the price that Jesus paid for us. It goes on to tell us that Joseph of Arimathea asked for Jesus' body, and he put it in a tomb. He put Jesus' body in a tomb, and it was like a cave that was kind of carved out, and then he rolled a stone in front of the tomb. And then we find out that the religious leaders remembered that Jesus had said that he was going to raise from the dead after 3 days. And so they asked Pilate to put some soldiers guarding the tomb so that the disciples couldn't come back and steal Jesus' body and pretend like he had risen from the dead. So Friday feels hopeless. From the world standpoint, Friday feels sad. It might even feel overwhelming at this point. And so I'm going to close today's teaching with one of my favorite quotes from Good Friday. It's Friday, but Sunday's a-comin'.